Welcome everyone to Q3 of 2019 and our loan officer launch, best practices and questions and answer. I am Todd Bookspan, the founder of Win by Noon, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm super excited that you took time to learn. I am recording this webinar, so anyone who wants to see it again, it'll be up on YouTube here later this week. We've got a chat feature, so if you notice down below, you can hit chat and then that'll show up here on the right of my screen and I'll know what your question is. Throw up any questions you have as we go. I will answer it if it's relevant at the moment, and I will put a pin in it till later if I know I'm going to cover it, or if it's not relevant to today. Real quick before we start, I have a quick poll. So I'm going to launch this poll, and if you guys could just real quick answer this question for me. Are you new to Win by Noon, or are you a seasoned pro of some sort? This will help me determine which direction we're going to go. Awesome. Okay, so most of you are new. That's perfect. Now let me ask you one other question here, and then we are going to, the second thing is, which edition do you have? Do you have a dated edition, the launch edition, or no idea what it is that Todd is talking about? Perfect. So I got people with both. So I'll be addressing both of these as we go. In fact, let me just jump in there on that one so people know. All right, so first off, I'm going to be talking to all of you. There is a dated edition, right? The dated edition says Q3 on it, and then when you open it up and you get to today, the first week of the month, guess what? It says Monday, July 1st, the day that I'm doing this webinar. Some of you, about half of you, have the launch edition. So you know the launch edition because it's got the rocket ship on it, and you all have the instructions built in. So all of this stuff that I'm talking about and some stuff that I won't talk about is actually built in here step by step how to do it. And so I would encourage you with the launch edition just to start at the front. I know it's hard to read and give you homework, but just start walking through it. It'll help you with the goal planning part. One of the things that you'll notice as you go through on the launch edition is it says this in red a lot. If this is too much for you, just skip ahead. Right? So any of the true goal stuff, if you've never used this as a planning tool before, may be a little overwhelming, and then you can just skip right to tracking a day, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then the other part about it is that you just know then that you guys have to sadly write in your own dates because it's blank. And then if you subscribe, your subsequent quarters will actually be the dated quarters, but the launch is really the best way to start. Now, what if you're brand new and you have a dated version of it and you're like, gosh, I wish I had the instructions? Just go ahead and email me, todd@winbynoon.com, and I'll make sure that we get you a copy of the instructions so that you have those. If you're watching this, do the same thing, or if we're really good, there'll be a link down below with those instructions. The goal today is really talk about what Win by Noon is, and I always debate, am I going to do a PowerPoint presentation or just talk to you guys? And what I decided is I'm just going to talk to you guys and show you the planner as we go. I've really found that this is one of the more effective ways to walk through it. And so what I would tell you is, first and foremost, the planner is just that. It's a day planner, right? So it's a day planner that you can actually record your calendar in, right? It's got a little calendar there on the side. Look at that. Here's my calendar for the day. It's got, your week ahead calendar, so you can see, hey, what's my week look like, right? It's just a calendar. It's a companion to your phone that probably has your calendar on it or your computer. And it's got a great to-do list, right? And people use it just as that. People actually tell me who use it just as a day planner that they're actually more productive, more effective. They're able to watch their time and manage their time better, and they're better at following up on their to-dos and their leads. So that part's really awesome, and it's got that piece of it built in. More importantly, though, it's a business planning tool, right? Success leaves clues. And so with Win by Noon, it's not that I think I'm a genius and that I can tell you exactly what you need to do in order to increase your business. The tool is genius, as what the tool will do is the tool will help you determine, based on the results you want, hey, I want to close 4 transactions this month. It'll help you reverse engineer based on that. How many loan applications do I need to get there? How many leads do I need to get there? How many pre-approved buyers do I need to get there on the results side? And then it'll also help you on the activity side. Well, gosh, if the first result is a lead, I need to get a lead in order to get an application. Well, how many people do I have to actually talk to in order to get a lead, right? How many people do I have to actually call in order to talk to them in order to get a lead? How many people do I have to call and talk to in order to convert from a lead to a loan application? So we really have to start with the activity side of it. And oftentimes I find that people expect results, but they haven't figured out what is the activity to put in order to get there. And so that's what this tool does, and that's what the instructions will walk you through, and I'll spend a little bit of time today on that. However, just know that you're going to have to start somewhere, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes in order to get to where you're going without being totally overwhelmed. The last thing is, it's a philosophy, right? The whole name of it, right? This name, which is Win by Noon. And what I find is that oftentimes we wake up. So tell me if this has ever happened to you. We wake up in the morning, we've got this amazing to-do list. We've got some really critical priorities that we have to get to in order to have our goals accomplished today. And we get to the end of the day, we look down at that to-do list, and we didn't accomplish any of it or very little of it. Right? I don't know about you, but that's happened to me a lot. What I found is that when I actually put my most important priorities first, when I say, you know what, I'm not going to react to everyone else. I'm not going to react to my email. I'm not going to get on social media. I'm going to actually get all those initial calls that I need to get done first. I'm going to make sure that those critical people I need to touch base with, I touch base with first, clear that critical to-do list, then react to the rest of the day. Guess what? Those are the people who are most consistent. Those are the people who actually have the best conversion rates. And those are the people who continue to grow their business versus those who just react all day. And so ultimately, Win by Noon is a philosophy. And if you can actually use it as a business planning tool, you're going to grow more than people who just use it as a day planner. If you can actually use it as a philosophy and say, I'm going to do my most critical activities first, and then I'll react to everything else, then you are going to have the best results of anyone using Win by Noon. In fact, so much so that you'll notice at the end of every day, we've got there, was I proactive or reactive today? And did I finish before or after noon? Now, ironically, I can tell you in my own planner, right? I'm already cranking through everything. I've already circled that I'm going to finish afternoon. Well, why did I give up already? Well, guess what? Because at 10:30, I had to drive to go speak to this real estate team. And therefore, I couldn't get in my 45 minutes, 90 minutes of my 3 hours of dialing today. So I've got 90 minutes scheduled later today to be on the phones doing really what I tell you guys to do, which is pick up the phone and call people. And so ultimately, in the end, that is a critical part of it. Now, one thing I will throw in there, you guys may have noticed, is we have a lot of things called habits for success, which is personal stuff in here, and I'll cover that as well. Things like morning routine, evening routine, exercise, on time, and really why I think that's important to round out you as a whole human being, because ultimately when we have that elusive balance, when we have a little bit more in our life, and it helps make us actually better at business, even though we're going to always have time. There's no such thing as equal balance. Right? You're always going to have times where you're really pushing it. You're always going to have times where you're kicking back on the beach, hopefully more of that than the former, latter than of the former. But this is a good time in the mortgage business, so I want to kind of talk about making hay. Now, there's a couple of ways that I've approached it, and I've changed over the last 2 years, right? So we just hit the 2-year anniversary of Win by Noon. I'm super grateful for all of our users who have really helped us grow. One thing I will throw out there, right after this, I'm doing the real estate agent webinar. Those of you who are brand new, don't watch that now, but just know it's on YouTube. And at some point, I would encourage you as a loan officer, the best way for you to build partnerships and help your partners grow their business is to help them business plan. And this is a great tool for you to use with your realtors once you start mastering it for yourself, or you can master it together. Like that sales pitch. I don't do a whole lot of pitching. Okay. And so always when I teach it, I started off differently, right? I think it depends on you. And so what's going to happen is you're going to say, gosh, that was really confusing. I wish Todd would have started with that other part. And just know I'm going to speak to 3/4 of the group who I think will understand the overall philosophy of Win by Noon. And then I'll actually get really tactical with those of you on what each day looks like. So I should hit both of you, but I'm going to start with what I call the ideal week. Now, we got a pretty cool graphic on it. You guys who got it, you should have got it in your box. It's a big 11 by 17 fold out called the ideal week and what your activities are. And I want to walk you guys through how I designed the ideal week and the reason why I'm going to start there. So the ideal week is going to be, now I had one on my counter, which would have been really good for my teaching, but I'll pull it out of here for you. My new fancy one. But the ideal week is just that week ahead that you're looking at in your planner. And the reason I'm going to start there is because if you can own your ideal week, so there it is. If you're in the launch, that's what it looks like. If you're not in the launch, then grab out your ideal week for this week. So if you're in the launch, that is on page 14. And if you are in a regular loan officer planner, that will be on page 7. no glasses, so I have to kind of back it up. And again, you can see, right, I've got my ideal week designed out. So again, my ideal week is going to be different than your ideal week because I have a different role than you have. But you can see here, I actually scheduled in 3 hours of calling, 9 to noon, Monday through Wednesday, because Thursday's a holiday this week. Those of you watching it later, this is the 1st of July. Except for that meeting that I just mentioned, I went and talked to those realtors. And so the reason I always start with the ideal week is because the loan officers that I've coached who've grown the fastest, right? And this is loan officers who are either brand new in the business or were like 15, 20, 30 years in the business, but repeating their first year of business over and over again, right? We've all been there. We can relate to that. Those who adapted to the ideal week first were the ones who grew the most. Secondarily, were the people who grasped the accountability process. So stay tuned because I do have an accountability challenge that we're launching. And so at the end, I'll talk about that. You're more than welcome to join in. And so the ideal week is divided into 2 parts, right? First, we divide it into daily disciplines. And these are so crystal clear that, you're not going to talk to a coach out there or to a person who says that these aren't critical activities every day. Each and every day as a loan officer, you have to call your leads who haven't converted. And you have to call your pre-approvals who you've gotten an application from, but you're missing something to issue the pre-qualification letter, right? And oftentimes I find that loan officers are all high-fiving themselves, patting themselves on the back. I got an application, but that doesn't really help if you don't get a pre-qualification letter in their hand because they're not going out shopping with a realtor until they have a pre-qualification letter. So you've got to take the time to get your client from application to pre-qualification stage. And I think that that's a mistake a lot of loan officers make. They track lead to application, application to close. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you from now on, you're going to be doing lead to application, application to pre-qualification to close. Because ultimately in the end, I promise you that you're going to convert to a closed loan a higher percentage of people who actually were pre-qualified than not. In fact, it's very unlikely you're going to convert someone who wasn't pre-qualified, but you have their application to be a closed loan. That wasn't rocket science, huh? Again, if that doesn't make sense, ping me there in the corner. And so we're going to call those people every day. Now people say, well, how often should you call them? And I've got other webinars I've done and I can share the data later. But the bottom line is you need to call a lead however many times your referral partner expects you to call them, right? For me, it was 7 times over 2 weeks. So my schedule was this. I called them once the first day, right when I got the lead, right? Speed to lead. I called them again at the end of the day that I got the lead. I called them the next day. I called them the 3rd day. There's 4 of my calls already. And then I called them every other day, right? There's a weekend in there. I didn't call on the weekend. Called them every other day till 14 days, 7 calls. I sent emails in between. And then I wasn't a big texter. Now I would add text in there as well as part of my follow-up process, probably at least 3 texts in there as well. Statistics show that a lead is going to convert after 6 calls more than 90% of the time. And so if you don't have a system set up where you're calling at least 6 times, I think you're making a mistake. I would tell you most loan officers call, guess what? Between 0 and 1 time. Very few actually call more than twice. In fact, it's less than 10%. And when I blocked my calendar every day in the morning and started being committed to my 7 call over 14-day schedule, guess what happened? My conversion rates went up. My lead count didn't go up initially, but my conversion rates and my closed loans did because I did a better job of following up with them because I was committed to the activity. You're going to hear words that I use a lot. Commitment, right? These are committed activities, proactive, reactive, right? So just bear with me as I do these, as I do this, because these are things I'm saying for a reason. Same thing on my pre-qualified buyers. You're going to really set my applicants who I'm trying to get to pre-qualified buyers. You're going to really set that up based on what they tell you, right? If I talk to someone today and they say, yep, I'll get you that tomorrow, then I'm going to actually have a follow-up with them for tomorrow. If they didn't send it to me, and I'm going to harass them. Yo, where's that information you said you were going to send me? If they say, hey, I want to do it this weekend, then guess what? I'm going to set a follow-up for myself for Monday. And if it's not in my inbox by Monday, I'm going to follow up and say, hey, where is that? When can I expect it? I'm going to give a commitment over the phone on when it's going to be, and then I'm going to follow up again at that time. And you have to continue to do that because that's going to judge how serious they are or not. For me, I found that if it was after 3 times and when they committed and they didn't do it, then I would reach back to the realtor and say, gosh, hey, can you help me get the documentation they need? So those are things I did every single day. So every single day I went in my CRM, I sorted it out by next call date, and I would look what leads am I calling today, or what applicants who haven't been pre-qualified do I need to call today. So those are the daily disciplines. And they have to be done first because I find that most loan officers actually put that as the least important of their to-do list. And I promise you, if you want consistent business and that momentum going the rest of the year, that is your most important business. Now, the next thing is theme days, right? We actually don't call them that. We call them win by noon commitments, right? We're making an activity commitment every day, but people would liken it to a theme day, like, crazy hair day at your kid's school or pajama day. And I'm just going to go through the week. Now, if you tell me, Todd, I already do this, but on a different day, then my first question always is awesome. How consistent? And if you say, gosh, I do it week in, week out, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, I'm going to say, great, keep doing it if it's working, right? If it's not working or not doing it consistently, I'm going to encourage you to adopt my days because there's a reason behind everything I do, and I'll explain to you the reason as we go through it. Monday, today, right? Today's a day just to actually spend time setting up your week, right? I'm looking at my calendar, right? I did my ideal week. I actually did that yesterday, but if you hadn't done it, I would have done it today. I tallied up my numbers this morning when I got in. Hey, here were my activities and my results from last week. Again, I'm using it to review what I did last week. How did I do compared to what I said I was going to? I made a commitment last week that I wanted to do this much activity and I was expecting this many results. How did I do compared to that, right? So that's why we've got that in there. Again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through that, but ultimately you've got a weekly review that you won't have if you're brand new until after the first quarter, but ultimately here's where you're going to run and you're going to do those numbers, right? So now you're just going to total the numbers if you're brand new. I wouldn't guess at what those numbers might be. If you have a history where 6 months in the year, it's kind of easy to start. If you closed, let's see, in the 6 months, let's pretend you closed 12 transactions. I got to do math I can do in my head. So you may pick, let's say you close 24, that sounds better. 24 transactions, so 4 a month, right? So you may pick, I want to get 1 closed transaction this week. You may in order to get those 24 closed transactions, I had 48 loan applications. I had a 50% conversion rate. So you can do the math on that and say, okay, gosh, you know what, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to actually need to get 2 applications this week. Most of you, that's probably all the information that you have. If you're brand new, you might have leads in your CRM. Again, do the same thing in your leads. But ultimately what you're going to do is whatever you know after next week, you'll be able to take this week's results. You'll be able to set that going forward. I will be doing a webinar, again, probably in the middle of next week that'll help you guys continue to fine tune your numbers as we go. And we'll do webinars continually throughout the quarter. The other thing that I'm going to do on Monday is I'm going to tie up any opportunities that didn't commit, meaning if I had a client who canceled last week, a realtor who canceled last week, I'm going to follow back up and get them back on my calendar for this week, right? It's what else can I do to set my week up for success? And then it really, that whole review piece, for me today, all I spent on it was 5 minutes adding up my numbers, right? Because I did some of it yesterday. Yesterday I spent probably 20 minutes on it. Again, it's not a ton of time that you need to spend. And then you just jump in on your leads, jump in on your pre-approvals. Now, the other thing, and I'll talk about it when we get later in the week, is you'll have some other Monday activities that'll come up through the week. And so as we get to our Wednesday and our Thursday calls, I'll start saying, hey, put this on your Monday calendar. And then you'd also do these other calls that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Tuesday, update call day, right? Now, again, I have a lot of people who are like, I update my clients at the end of the week. I update them on Mondays. Great. If you're doing it consistently, then keep doing it there if it's working for you, right? We picked Tuesday because my wife picked Tuesday. I want it to be Monday. I tell you that realtors, when you ask them, they want to be updated on Mondays and on Fridays. They want to know what's going on first thing in the week, and they want to know what's going on going into the weekend. I just set it up for them to have an update you on Tuesdays. Of all the things, ironically, since other coaching programs talk about Tuesday updates, I see most people do them on Tuesdays, but it's also the one where I see the most variation, where people are like, oh, I can update my people on Thursday or Friday. And for me, Tuesdays was great because my team needed Monday to update the CRM so that when we did the emailed updates out on a Tuesday, they were good. And ultimately, you're going to call the buyer's agent, you're going to call the listing agent, you're going to call your client or clients plural if there's more than one. And then the secret sauce is calling any transaction coordinators, right? Oftentimes there's a transaction coordinator in there. How do you know? You ask the listing agent when you call her or him, and the buyer's agent when you call her or him at the setup. Hey, I'm so excited. I'm Todd. I'm helping you on 123 Elm Street. Wanted to make sure that you got that email that I just sent, so that way they have my contact info and how to reach my team. They say yes or no. Awesome. Let me resend it. Hey, is there anyone else I should be copying? Any other team member or transaction coordinator? The reason you want to actually butter up to the transaction coordinators is because they know what deals are going bad, right? If someone else's deal is going sideways and they might be in need of a new lender, they're the ones who are going to refer that person out. And I find that there's great opportunity there, and most loan officers overlook it. So Tuesdays, we're going to call our leads. We're going to call our pre-approved clients who we have initiative pre-qual on. You rephrase that. We're going to call our applied clients who we have initiative pre-qual on. And then we're going to do our update calls. And then you can react the rest of the day, right? That's why I say you're proactive or reactive, because the rest of the day you're chasing down, your file that just came out of underwriting. The processor wants you to call and get one more pay stub or ask about a large deposit. You're spending that afternoon meeting with a client who wants to meet in person. You're spending afternoon prospecting new realtors because you had extra time. I mean, again, once you get done with these things every day, then you could do really whatever else you want to do, right? Interest rates are low here in the middle of 2019. Maybe you're calling your database and seeing if you can't drum up an extra refi or two by doing an annual client review. Wednesday is pre-approved buyer day. Now, this is a really critical day. Why is Wednesday pre-approved buyer day? It's pre-approved buyer day because your clients have an internet addiction. You may too. But ultimately, you need to check in with your pre-approved buyers and you need to find out from them, how is their property search going? So here's all the scripts that I give. And here's the frequency within which I call. If someone's looking to buy within the next 30 days, I'm calling them every week. If they're going to buy in the next 60 days, I'm going to call them every other week. And if they're out more than 60 days, I'm going to call them every 3 to 4 weeks. I'm touching even a buyer who's not going to buy for a year. I'm touching with them at least once a month in order to ensure that they remember who I am. In Arizona, we have the Phoenix Open, we've got the Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction, we've got a lot of spring training, and it was amazing how many people would apply for a mortgage because they were curious about buying a second home here, and then next winter they were back. They knew me, they were in touch with me, but their realtor, I never called them, and I was able to save the transaction, but not necessarily the realtor because I made those calls. Now, what do you say is it depends, right? So if I was calling a client on this Wednesday, guess what I'd be saying? Hey, tell me about your 4th of July plans. And I'm writing it in my CRM. If I'm calling them last week and I'm calling them every 2 weeks, guess what I'm asking them? Tell me about your 4th of July plans. If I'm calling them 3 weeks ago, I may be talking about the Fed, or I may be asking about the 4th of July plans, probably both, right? So you're always going to tell them, first and foremost, the easiest script is, I'm just checking in, right? You can say it anytime. 9 months a year, you got a holiday. You can ask them, what are you doing for 4th of July? And then you can say, hey, how was boating with your cousin and your kids? If you didn't ask them that, hey, how was your 4th of July when I call them on my next call? So 9 months out of the year, you got a holiday that's going to save you. And so that's always an easy one. The Fed, right? They speak a handful of times a year. Your clients are always nervous about that. Hey, here's what the Fed said, and here's what it means to you. Your client's a down payment assistance approved client. Maybe that program went away or got adjusted. Hey, here's a change that may impact you, right? Just think about what it is you can educate them on. Hey, I saw this really great article on people that are investing in homes here in blank market. You send it over to them if they're an investor. Just think about what it is that you can do to help them, but always just go back to, hey, I'm just checking in. Thursday, Realtor Update Day. Now, similar thing, right? I'm calling my best realtors every week. I'm calling my next tier realtors every other week, and I'm making sure I touch base, even with the realtor who sends me 1 or 2 deals a year, at least every 3 to 4 weeks. Now, the easy thing to talk about is what did I talk to their pre-approved client about yesterday, right? Guess what? Hey, I called the Smiths, and they were complaining about this. Actually, if they were complaining, I would have called the realtor yesterday. Hey, they're excited to go shopping with you this weekend. I mentioned that there's things that I'm going to put on my calendar for Monday if I'm a loan officer. So when I'm talking to the client or I'm talking to the realtor, if they say, yeah, we're going out looking at homes this weekend, guess what? I'm putting on Monday, call the Smiths to see how their shopping went. So if I didn't hear from them or the realtor over the weekend asking me what their payment was going to be, asking me, whatever, to call the listing agent to tell them how wonderful they are, then on Monday, I'm going to check in. Hey, how was your shopping? I'm also going to check with the realtor. How was your weekend? I may ask the realtor, hey, are you working this weekend? Or are you doing something fun? Right? Obviously, 4th of July, I'm going to have that conversation now because I want to know which of my realtors are going to be out this weekend, right? So that way I can instruct them, oh, awesome, I'm going to be at the beach. I won't be able to answer your call, but call this person on my team. Oh, awesome. You know what? I'm working this weekend. If you need me for anything, let me know. Then I'm making a note on Monday to call that person who was working, whether they were taking out buyers or working at an open house. And then I'm checking in with them to see if I can help them with anything. Now, the reason I think that Thursday update calls are so great is because it gives you time, if they've got that lead they forgot to give you, gives you time to track down that lead and get their application for the weekend. Because it's amazing how many times I go, oh my gosh, I didn't know the Smiths were coming in this weekend. And then I call the Smiths, finally I track them down. They're like, oh yeah, we made this plane reservation a month ago. And the realtor I just forgot. So if the realtor says I'm taking out the Smiths and I don't have their pre-approved, I'll be like, hey, let me get them pre-approved before you go out there. So this is your weekend protection. It helps you not do 5 o'clock pre-quals on Saturday or Sunday or have it interrupt your weekend. And it's worked wonders for me, and also set up all those calls on Monday. Friday, it's the bookend of Monday. It's tie up any loose ends, right? Who canceled a meeting that I want to reschedule? what else do I need to do in order to sleep well this weekend? Oh, you know what? Bob, the realtor, said he was having an open house this weekend. Let me shoot him over some flyers so I don't have to drive him over to him on Sunday morning and it's an hour away. What else can I do so I can relax this weekend? And then annual mortgage reviews. Again, I find that most people do those whenever they can fit it in. You've got to schedule time for it. What gets scheduled gets done. And so I think that you should be blocking off your morning, the whole morning for this Monday through Friday. Now, the good news is that most of you, myself included, wouldn't need until noon to do that Monday through Friday. But if you do it first and you get done at 10:30 or 11, guess what? Then you've got now extra time to react, extra time to prospect new realtors, extra time for a few more annual mortgage reviews because rates are low. You have extra time for something else that you wouldn't have had otherwise. What I tend to find is we come in, we look at our phone and our email. Oh my gosh, there's a text message. It's really important. What should I do? And then we react to that knowing it's not a true critical activity. And so what I say is write in your planner what your commitments are. So I was laughing as I sat in here and taught this morning to this real estate team. This real estate team actually dials together every day, Monday through Friday for 3 hours. And so I looked, the guy right in front of me opened his up, and guess what his looked like? It was blank. He hadn't done anything on it. So guess what he did while we were sitting there? He actually went in with his pen and he wrote down all the way through noon, Monday through Friday, his 2 hours of dialing. Now, I know he's not going to dial on Thursday, but he just did that, I think, because I was sitting there to design out his ideal week. And so, again, you can see once it's in here, it's a commitment. So I'm going to be dialing for 3 hours tomorrow. And that's going to be really a critical piece for me. Now, why do I write it in there when I know I'm going to do it? Because if I don't write it in there, guess what's going to happen? Someone's going to say, Todd, can I grab you for a quick phone call? And I might say yes. Now I look at my calendar, I go, nope, you know what? I've made a commitment to me to dial, right? And that could be to call some of you, right? I dial my, I dial my clients, and it's a great opportunity for me to actually make sure I'm proactive in what I'm doing versus reacting to people who want to have a little bit of my time later in the day. You always have to schedule white time in there. You can't book your whole day out, right? If you look at what I put in here, you can see there's like our little sample in here. It has time for email and client meetings. I at one point tried to book my whole day for 8 hours, and it was just terrible because I couldn't, there's no way to fulfill that, right? So I normally book my day till noon. I may book a lunch in there. And then after that, I actually give myself an hour just to kind of react, right? Clear my email, return voicemails, do all those things. I already said I have a commitment to myself. That's my biggest script, right? When someone says, well, hey, I'm gonna meet you for coffee. Can we meet at 9 a.m.? I say, gosh, I'd love to. I've got a commitment at that time. Can we meet at 12:30? And so again, I'm always buying myself time. And 9 times out of 10, you can engage them at a time that works for you by just saying, I've got a commitment at that time. I used to say I'm assisting a client at that time. I've got an appointment at that time. The appointment was with me, so that was supposed to be okay, but I felt disingenuous about that. And so I really like the idea of I've got a commitment at that time, because I do. I've got a commitment to my realtors to convert the lead. I've got a commitment to the client to convert the lead, because if I think I'm the best at doing mortgages, guess what? If I'm the best at doing mortgages, then by golly, I want to make sure I follow up with that person one more time so that I convert the lead for them. My realtor is expecting to get a commission check from that. And if I'm not doing my job, then I'm failing at that commitment, right? So think about that piece when you're like, hey, I don't know that I want to do it. But I would tell you that the best in the mortgage business have created an ideal week. Most of them follow mine, or you can adapt and do your own if you have other days that you're doing things. Now, what do you do on a week like this where it's a short week? Guess what? You move it all forward, right? So Wednesday, you're doing your Thursday calls as well on Wednesday. Unless you're working on Friday, you could always roll it backwards, but I always prefer to roll it forwards, right? Squeeze in some time for annual mortgage reviews as well. But ultimately, you got to squeeze more in the same amount of time. What I tend to find is people say, well, I was going to make 100 calls this week. I'm off for 2 days, so I'm only going to make 60 calls. I think that's a mistake. That's what leads to inconsistent business down the road. Once you know what your number of calls is you need to make each week in order to hit your number, then you got to figure out how to make those calls in there. And it could just mean that these 3 days, instead of dialing for 3 hours, you got to dial for 4 hours each day. And maybe you just dial for 3 hours in the morning and schedule. You heard that word schedule. You schedule it for later in the day. So again, I didn't do that, but again, you might just schedule in here where you've got this white space, more time to dial if you're going to need it to hit that commitment. I hope that's helpful on Ideal Week. If you have questions on it, then go ahead and put it below. The other thing I'll talk about real quick, and then I'll just open it for Q&A, is really just how do you approach any given day, right? So we've got our days of the week. And so let's just walk through it, right, real quick. Calendar here. So I transfer from my phone for my Ideal Week right here, what my calendar looks like for the day. So if I showed you my day today, use my handy dandy bookmark. right? That just matches right back up. So that just matches up to the ideal week that I already showed you. I do have some realtors who actually say, you know what? In my phone is my ideal week. Here I track my activity. Like, what did I do? I said I was going to lead generate from 9 to 11. Oh gosh, I had to talk to Mary about her home inspection. So they're actually using it as their personal accountability tool. Very few do that, but it's a super cool idea. At the very top of the page, you have kind of what I call some of the cooler pieces about it. You've got my top 3 and you've got what I'm grateful for, right? The grateful for is the easy one. What am I grateful for today? I would challenge you to try to find something different each day that you're grateful for. Like, I'm grateful for my family every day. I try to pick something different about my family that I'm grateful for each day. Tons of studies about gratitude and how starting your day in gratitude is going to have a better result on your day than if you start off kind of miserable and mad. Top 3, the productivity experts would tell you that's your top 3 jobs in your role. That's not how most people use the planner, but let me just explain that to you real quick, and then let me explain to you how I see most people, including myself, use the planner. When I did loans, my top 3 was lead generation with lead conversion. It was client consultation and realtor consultation, right? I use clients for both. And then it was leading my team, right? Being a team leader. Those are my top 3 things day in and day out. And what a productivity person would tell you is you put that on there every single day, even though it's redundant, to remind yourself that those are the activities I should be focusing on. So when you're doing something that's not those activities, right? When you're sitting on Facebook, you know, clicking like on someone's dog pictures, you go, oh my gosh, I need to get back to my top 3 activities. Most people use it for what are my top 3 things today. So mine said dial. It said the team I went presented to, and then it says webinars, because I'm doing these 2 webinars. Those are my top 3 for the day. Below that, here's where we're going to start tracking your activities and tracking your results. So we've got lead and client calls. Whoops, hold on. Let me get a real loan officer edition, because mine's an executive edition, so it's slightly different. So you guys are going to have lead and client calls, right? And you can put a little L and a C in there, or you can just put an X, right? The reason we went to L and C, for those of you who are experienced, is because wouldn't it be nice to know how many lead calls do I have to make to get a lead to convert to an application? And then client calls are clients that are in a transaction with you, right? So that's my client update calls. And then we've got partner and partner prospect calls. Again, how many times do I have to call a brand new realtor on average to get him or her to meet with me to make them to get them to send me a lead? And then there's this other thing there, which you can use for whatever you choose. I see people use it for recruiting, if you're recruiting in that role. I see people use it for, like, I talk to my family members, team members, like you know, people that they want to track. So if you actually looked at mine, I actually track win by noon users, and I track questions from my team in there, and then I track other, just here's what I'm doing, so I can go back in my day and see where am I spending all my time and energy. What is a lead? Everyone asks me that. I'll tell you what a definition is for win by noon, and then you and your team can decide what it is for you. But I think as we go and we're comparing ourselves to others, I would suggest you use the win by noon version. A lead is someone who has raised their hand to you or to your realtor saying that they want a mortgage. It's not an online lead. I do get online leads and I track those. I just track those separately, because not necessarily is an online lead that came in that nobody's talked to who said they wanted a mortgage really a lead, right? Sometimes they're just clicking to get information and see what you have going on. So if it was a lead that came from an online lead generation engine and they responded to the realtor's email or the realtor's phone call or your email or your phone call, they said, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Lead comes in, no one's been able to get a hold of them, not a lead. Hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions on that. Quality conversations, live meetings. That's the rest of the activity. Live meeting is who did I meet with face-to-face, right? Could be a video call these days if you actually had it one-on-one with people. A live meeting, I just taught 20 some odd realtors. You know what? I don't have 20 some odd live meetings. There was 4 people there that I actually shook hands with, had a quick conversation with. Guess what? 4 live meetings. Quality conversation is on the phone, right? Who did I talk to? And what did he or she say? Did I actually tell them something? If it's, no, I'm busy, can you call me later? Not a quality conversation. Can it be text? Absolutely. If your client prefers text and you're texting back and forth, hey, your appraisal's in, here's the value. Hey, just checking to see when you give me those pay stubs. They text back, I'm working on it. You're say, yeah, when, right? That can be a conversation. Be consistent and watch that way. Because in the end, you're going to end up having your ones that you like the best. I like to know all of these things. Like how many people I have to call to get a closed loan? You know, and how many people I have to talk to get a closed loan? Like those are critical things. Just think through that how powerful it is down the road when you show up today and you say, gosh, what's my goal for this week? And you can say, you know what, I need to make 82 phone calls so I can get my two closed deals that I want at the end of the month, right? That's powerful. And so that's the business planning piece. Down below, just a couple other things, and then I'm going to be going Q&A here on you guys. So today's new leads, again, I'm a big believer in CRM. And what you would want to do with a lead is, I was trying to see if I had a old planner sitting around. I would write my leads in there, and then I would cross out as soon as it got into my CRM, right? I see other people, they've told me, I don't use my company CRM. I'm like, especially when they're branch managers and they've got 40 of their coworkers sitting around them. But they say that's the way that they remember to make those 7 phone calls, right? So for me, I literally just put a big fat X through it. That big X meant I moved it into my CRM and I managed my leads in there, because if it wasn't in my CRM, it didn't happen. The people who just use this as their CRM, that's awesome, because then you can just check how many calls have I made against that lead, and then you know whether to follow up by just flipping through. Down below is where you just track those things and you add them up each day. So again, it's pretty self-explanatory. It flows down to here and goes here. There's also some blanks down here, right? So you can put blank things in here. So like I did 3 Facebook Lives this morning. Guess what mine has? Mine actually has how many Facebook Lives did I do as an activity. So I've got those in here. You can see that Facebook Live 3, right? And so I track things like that because that's important to my business. I see how does that impact my Win by Noon family. And so ultimately in the end, it is, it's kind of track this stuff and go through it. And again, I track who I talk to, even though I'm using it for different reasons. The other thing that are in here, right? Leads, right? Just a single hash mark, right? Pre-qualifications issued, single hash mark. And then again, any other blank things. The other page, we just have a to-do list over here. On this side of it, you'll see that we've got things in the front that you're going to prioritize before noon, and then the rest of your day. And then I mentioned these things that are kind of more personal down here. On time, that's scheduling time to work on your business. If you're on a team, you may not need on time. But if you're actually trying to grow your business and you're like, I'm going to need to do annual mortgage reviews because rates are low, well, you got to schedule time to actually design your annual mortgage review campaign. You might have to schedule time to dig into your database or your old files of who am I going to call, right? That's working on your business versus in your business, which is dialing the phone, talking to people, talking to realtors. Handwritten notes, we put that on there. I broke down and put on there social media this time. How many posts or how much time am I spending in there? Again, it's not because I want you to be in there every day, but if it's part of your business, I want you to be cognizant of how much time you're spending and what the results are you're getting, because I find that oftentimes we're spending way too much time in there. That's a whole nother rant. And then evening and morning routine exercise. Again, these are just things that I think are critical to the whole human and what that looks like. And there's a spot down there for a new habit, right? And sometimes the new habit's an old habit you fell out of. And then at the very end here, the highs of my day. That's the bookend to what am I grateful for? Like, hey, what was awesome today? And so we do that at the table. We do a high-low game where everyone says, hey, here's the high of my day. Here's the low of my day. And everyone goes around there. For the kids, it's like, oh, low of my day was school. And, Johnny was mean. And then the high of my day is this dinner. Or the high of my day was, I got an A on my test or whatever that was for them. And so that's a great start to Win by Noon for all of you. And the reason why is because starting is what it takes to gain momentum and be successful. If you haven't looked at it until just now, start with just today. Just start tracking today. And then at the end of the week, just total it up and then set a commitment for next week. And then after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, you'll have more data, and then your commitments you set will be more accurate and better. There's plenty of other opportunities to get videos from us. Just ping Todd at winbynoon.com or look at our video archive for other ways to use the planner and other kind of advanced tools to get there. But for today, don't get overwhelmed by it, right? I started with the ideal week because I want you to know that is what the best of the best in the mortgage business do week in and week out. No excuses. They're committed to it. Easiest way to be committed to is to write it down and look at it, right? There's so many studies that show writing things, visualization of it is going to lead to better results than just having it on your phone and not really seeing the big picture. So take the time. It doesn't take that long to do it. And then as far as other tools, if you're not on Facebook, we have a Win by Noon user mastermind group. You can join that. You'll notice when you get in there that we've been running a 4-week challenge. We're getting ready to launch a new one. We do one for realtors. We're doing one for loan officers. The 4-week challenge is free for the first 30 days. Then it's a paid group down the road. But ultimately, you get to jump in there, and there are interviews of loan officers and realtors in the group. I do a lot of live Q&A in there. And then additionally, you've got these accountability challenges where you commit to your numbers, and then you actually report them each week, either inside of our secret Facebook group that we have, or most people just email them to me because they don't want everyone else to see their numbers. But we had 2 people in there who just posted up in the past 2 days that they had their best quarters ever, thanks to being part of the challenge. So I invite you guys to be in that. All you have to do is reach out to me, join in that group. It's got directions inside that group if you can't find it. You can private message me on Facebook. Just know if we're not friends, the private message gets filtered out, so you're better off emailing me. We will have some other exciting things that are announced over the next couple of weeks of ways to engage with us. But just know these webinars are a great way. Jump in Facebook Live once or twice a week in the grand scheme of the world, and then a little bit more frequently inside of those other 2 groups that I've got. And other than that, I will answer some questions. Brian asked what CRM I use. My team uses Salesforce on the mortgage side. It's just the plain old vanilla kind you buy from Salesforce, just highly customized. For Win by Noon, we use a CRM called Active Campaign, which is more of an info marketer CRM, and don't really love it, honestly. So the best CRM is the CRM that you have and that you use. And the second best one is one that's better that you would buy and use, but I don't necessarily go with that. So even though our Active Campaign we don't love, it's working for us. We're using it. At some point, we'll go to something fancier is my guess. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes if you guys have more questions. Like I said, a great way to learn with your realtors is the realtor webinar. I wouldn't necessarily jump on it right after this. It's going to be literally almost identical. Just going to talk about a realtor's ideal week. But I'm happy to answer questions. I'm super grateful that you guys took the time to be here today. I think that Q3 of 2019 could be set up to be your best quarter ever. And I think that's really going to come down to your commitment to yourself, your commitment to your clients and your realtors, you getting serious about the discipline that's going to be required to block out the noise. Because I do think there's going to be a ton of noise going on. Your clients are getting hit with a ton of noise. And my goal is going to be to continue to help you guys with ideas that will help you be most effective and efficient in this market. So as always, I'm grateful that you spend time out of your busy day to be here. Happy to help in any way if I can. If you're watching here on YouTube way down the road, some of this stuff may have been changed or updated. So sorry about that. But we'll continue to do these each quarter just in this way and then throughout the quarter. So I'm Todd Bookspan and I am out of here. Hope you guys have a great day.